Good afternoon. It is Thursday, January. It is Thursday, June 5th. I'm off to a good start. It's 3:25 p.m. Had a couple things I wanted to talk about. Some of it's interesting. Some of it is it's an effort to educate. Hope you appreciate what goes into this later. I'm going to talk about the football roster, which, if you're anything like me, it makes your head spin. The whole thing does. The guys at Gold and Black, specifically Tom Dienert, has been doing his best, doing yeoman's work, honestly, trying to explain to you what's going on with the many, many movements that have happened with the roster. I have a couple takeaways after digging in a little bit deeper on my own, and hope to share them with you. Before I get to that, I want to talk a little bit about what's been going on around Indianapolis, some of the sports stories. I didn't talk to you since the Pacers moved on past the Knicks. Want to do that? Touch on IndyCar, and of course talk about Luke Ertl going off in the Indiana Junior versus Senior game. So hope you enjoyed the show today, and I hope it does what it did for me. Honestly, the research, what it did, just made me understand a little bit better what's going on in the Purdue football roster. Before I get into it, before I dig too deeply, I want to talk about our two sponsors, Home Field Apparel. They're excellent. Home Field Apparel makes a lot of really cool stuff. But right now, they got a Gene Katie hat. This thing got my attention via email. It says "Play Hard" on the front. They're paying homage to the Purdue icon. That's something you could get there. Also, they've got the sweater, which no one has bought me yet. Still, I've requested. No one has brought it to me. It hurts my feelings. The classic sweater with the block P. It's great. They got t-shirts. They got sweatshirts. Homefieldapparel.com, and are boiled25 at checkout for 15% off your first order. Also, stay tuned. I think they have a bunch of stuff coming out this summer. They're rolling some things out. Also, when you're on campus, and maybe this summer you'll be fortunate enough to go up, spend a little time on campus on your own when the campus slows down a little bit. So like I've said to you guys before, one of my favorite things to do. But when you're there, there's one stop you should make on top of all your old stomping grounds and reminiscing or whatever you're doing. Maybe you're a student, you're going back to pay a bill, like I had to do one time during my my time at Purdue. Regardless of what it is, you need to head towards the fire station. And when you do, when you get there, look across the street, look to your left, any direction, look to your left. You'll eventually get there. And you're going to see the blue and black signage of AJ's. And inside, you're going to find the nicest people maybe on campus, maybe in the state, maybe in the country, maybe in the entire solar system. AJ's, they've got great service, got great food, got an awesome atmosphere. If it's a game day, you can get a boiled sports magnet at the bottom of your pint. If it's not a game day, you can still go in there and have one of their tasty selections. Adam's been working hard on bringing new sauces to you guys, and if you will follow him on Instagram, he'll tell you all about it. Burgers, beef, beer. That's AJ's. AJ's by the fire station. They are great. All right. Looks like a couple of you guys already tuned in live. I appreciate it. I know it's unusual in the summer to come and listen to me talk. And some of you have had it up to here with me already. I went and I read some reviews on, it's always a bad idea, on, what is it? Apple Podcasts, and somebody called me an idiot. And that always hurts my feelings, because the only people who should be calling me idiots live under this roof. And so that hurt my feelings. I don't know how old the review was, but if it was one of you guys and you returned, hopefully I brought you over to make you, every time you think I might be an idiot, I do something to really hammer it home. And maybe I'll do it today. But I don't know why I would ever read a review, but I decided to do it, and it was a mistake. Okay, let's talk about the Pacers. Tonight, Pacers tip off at 8:30. They'll be the final series of the NBA season. The Pacers are in the finals. Pretty neat, pretty emotional. Cool to see the post game celebration after they beat the Knicks. I dig stuff like that. If I haven't explained it well enough to you, I can explain a little bit more. My family has history with the Pacers organization. When I was young, my grandfather was an owner. He was one of the founding owners. But I drifted away from the NBA. I just stopped caring. Probably after the late 90s, I just stopped caring about the NBA. I thought the game changed too much, didn't like it. And so I kind of come and go in a very fair weather manner. That said, when things get really fun, I dig in, and I'm really dug in right now, really enjoying myself. My wife, also an Indianapolis kid, said, I feel bad about rooting for him because she knows how I am about Purdue sports and how I disdain fair weather fans. But when you think about pro sports and why they're there, aren't they really there for just entertainment? And at this time of year, I'm trying to get through summer just to get to Purdue football. And so this Pacers run has been just with the doctor order for me. We look forward to watching them play and seeing Halliburton and Siakam and Turner and company play as they have has been a lot of fun. Now, we move on to the beginning of tonight's series versus Oklahoma City. There are very few people in the media giving the Pacers any chance at all to win. The funny thing is, I went back and I looked at the odds. They weren't supposed to get past Cleveland. The odds are worse against Oklahoma City, according to Vegas. And now I'm starting to see, or I'm not starting to see, I've been seeing for a couple of days how many people are putting asterisks by the Pacers run and saying, you had an injured Cleveland team and didn't really get the best version of the Knicks, or the Knicks are incomplete, something along those lines. And I think generally you're going to find this time of year, many teams are beaten up and they're not playing their best basketball. And that's kind of the tough part about the playoffs. The Pacers are playing their best basketball. My son asked the question. He said, every year there's a shot that people remember, that the media focuses on. When's that shot going to come? He asked that probably 2 weeks ago of me. And I said, haven't we already seen it in the form of what Halliburton has done in the closing seconds of so many games? And then again with the high bouncing carom against the Knicks that forced it in overtime, didn't win the game, but I would think that regardless of the outcome of these finals, that these are some pretty iconic moments, and I'd love to see the Pacers get their first NBA championship. Go back to 1973, their third ABA championship, the third of three championships. That's back when my grandfather had a hand in the organization, and it'd be great to see the organization get a championship because the asterisk is always there. People in Indianapolis, people in the Midwest, maybe you feel this way. Always have a bit of a chip on our shoulder because we're not a big market team. They've even talked about that this week, how the Oklahoma City and Indianapolis matchup Indiana matchup is one that nobody wants to see except for those two cities. I'd argue that this is a pretty fun brand of basketball. In fact, people outside Indianapolis, I'm reading a lot of people just saying how entertained they've been by this brand that Carlisle's put together with this Pacers roster. And I would argue that Rick Carlisle has been absolutely just painting a masterpiece from a coaching standpoint. What he's done to get these guys tuned in at the right time, playing their best basketball has been pretty awesome. They're pretty inspired. They're playing together. They seem to like each other. All those formulas, the things that you like about sports, this Pacers team seems to have it. So we'll see how they do starting tonight in Oklahoma City. And hopefully they can steal one in Oklahoma City. That would go a long way into defining the success of this series for them. Next, I want to talk a little bit about IndyCar, what happened in Detroit. Kyle Kirkwood got a big victory. If you're like me, I love IndyCar. I really, really love the Indianapolis 500 more than any of the others. Like the lead of the Indianapolis 500 from me in the races over whatever's in second place, probably Alabama. I don't know. It's large, so I'm quite biased towards my favorite race. But that said, I'll always try to tune in when I can. That Detroit race, though, and many of the street circuits are just tough to watch. My wife always makes fun of me because I will fall asleep on the couch. Not upset about it. I will just fall asleep and I'll kind of enjoy my nap, kind of like I do when I'm watching a PGA event. Nothing wrong with embracing the nap and the cozy feeling on a Sunday when the air conditioner is just humming along and there's not much else to do. But Detroit, especially, there's just not many passing zones. It's obviously a goofy pit there. It was good to see Kirkwood win and steal some points from Alexander Palou, who's been just dominant this season. But afterwards, I think Pato O'Ward, complained about the track. I think there are other drivers that just do not like this version of Detroit. A lot of them like Belle Isle a lot more. And there's some things IndyCar really needs to address. I've been talking about this. I would say getting circuits where you actually can pass should be paramount. To me, it should be paramount, and it should be something where some of the sight lines of Detroit specifically, I don't know if it's just me, but when they do like the ride-alongs, you're watching certain turns. I'm like, I don't know how the drivers even decipher where they're supposed to go. I'm a simple-minded guy, but I think this course specifically, Nashville's kind of like this, where it's just so tight in certain spots, so difficult to get around some of these corners. It's not a great product, but once again, good to see Kirkwood winning, especially after I think he was sent to the back of the field at Indy. One other thing I want to talk about before talking about football is Luke Ertl just going off in the junior senior game. He scored 39 points. Became, I think, it's the highest scoring game ever by a junior in an Indiana junior senior game. Of course, Ertl is a class of 26. I hate using the word commitment, but it feels like it's a pretty solid commitment for Matt Painter. And he supposedly just dominated. He was hitting everything, shooting well from deep. And if you watch Ertl, if you watch his highlights, he's got some, and I've talked about a couple Purdue players that are like this. When he shoots a jump shot, he doesn't shoot it. He kind of just gently places the ball over the front of the rim. So even when he misses, it's just kind of barely missing. He's got a beautiful jump shot, lefty, and he's going to be fun to watch in Gold and Black. He's one of those guys that's kind of a baby-face assassin. I think he's a guy that a lot of the people that play against him in AAU do not appreciate the fact that he kicks their ass like he does, but he's going to be fun to watch at Purdue. All right, now let's dig in. Let's dig in to the main course, and that is football roster talk. It might be something that you haven't done a lot of thinking about, and I'd understand that just because it is a tough subject. But what I really wanted to do, I wanted to talk about a couple things. One, who's the leader of the team? I mean, if you've seen the thumbnail, you've already got a big hint. And then I wanted to talk about the guys that have transferred in, who've got my attention. Who are the guys you want to see come back and playing? In spite of the fact that Purdue had so many defections, there's still some guys that I bet you're kind of looking forward to seeing them play. And you may have not even thought about it because of the lousy situation around the program since the end of last season. I mean, granted, Coach Odom and company are doing everything they can to get this team ready, to dial them in. But this is a tough job, and this is a full rebuild. It's a really difficult situation. The thing that inspired me to do this was, I want to make sure I get this right, collegefootballnews.com, and their main writer for college football, Pete Fiatak, did a deep dive into Purdue's season and what he thought. And Pete and I actually see eye to eye on many things. One of the things, he has Purdue winning 4 games. I think that's a good one. The way they get there, he has the same formula, which is you knock out those first 2, and then he gave some toss-ups. He gave, I think, 4 toss-ups, or 50-50 games, whatever you want to call it. The one difference, and my brothers and I have been talking about, my brother brought it up, and he just said, I kind of feel like there's a reason to believe Purdue can beat USC this year. Get them early, get them if they, that team has been struggling a little bit, and they do not have any defense. And if Purdue's defensive strength can start gelling early, which I think there's a chance it could, it really depends on how a couple of these transfers get in and get comfortable. So let's talk here. So here are the, but another thing, Fiatak had a couple other points. He talked about players that stuck out to him. He had a couple guys that I disagreed with on the list of who Purdue's top 10 best players are. I'm not going to break it down as top 10. I'm going to look at guys that came from the portal, guys that are currently in the program, and then position groups that have me concerned, and position groups that I feel pretty good about. Especially after looking at this roster. You can tell me what you think in the comments. Okay, first, let's go over, there's some guys that I think are, Purdue really needs leaders, desperately needs leadership as they look ahead. Obviously, I'm going to talk about the guys that are already on the roster here in a minute. But before I do it, I'm going to talk about the guys that are coming in, because Purdue's going to have most of their upperclassmen are going to be guys that they got from the portal. So which guys from the portal could not only lead by words, but lead by example, because they've had good careers so far? For me, I talked about this guy right when he verbaled to Purdue, right when he decided he was coming to Purdue. Crew Wakely from BYU, senior safety. He's an old man, and he's been around the block, but I think he's going to be really, really important in that defensive backfield role, because I think he's going to be a quarterback for that unit. If you see him, he looks older. He's 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, really solid player, hard hitter, really good open field tackler. But he's going to be important, and he's a core. He is maybe the center to a very, very experienced defensive backfield that I actually think could be pretty special because of the nature of how they're building it. You've got a lot of guys that have had significant impact in other programs that are coming together, and we'll see how they go. It's a big physical defensive backfield, the way it looks like to me right now, based on the little bit of film that I've watched and the guys that are coming in that will probably make impact right away. But Crew Wakely is the guy that I think is gonna hold that down. After him, senior linebacker from UNLV, and this is a theme. If you look at the portal, obviously UNLV is a big deal because of Coach Odom's past. But Manny Powell from UNLV is a guy that I think could be one of the most important players on the defense. Obviously, Odom's past as a linebacker in college and a defensive-minded coach, guy who really has been able to develop a lot of linebackers. Look no further than Manny Powell if you're going to look for a guy that's old, experienced, and again, physical. He's more physical than his size. He's 6'2" and 230. But he'll be a good veteran. And there's another thing. When you watch these guys play on film, or you just see the player, you're like, some of these freshmen are going to respect these guys right away because they look like men. They look like dudes. Another one that's like that from UNLV again is Jalen St. John. He's a senior lineman from UNLV. Little guy, 6'5", 325 pounds. He was second team All Mountain West last year at UNLV. But he's a big man. He's a big dude. He's an intimidator. He's one of those guys. I don't know. They used to talk about who's the first guy you put on the bus because of their physical presence. And St. John is a guy that looks like he doesn't play around much, and that might be the guy just to set a tone for a team, specifically for an offensive line. But he is ready to go right out of the box, and he's proven that he can play the position. Finally, another player that also earned all conference accolades is C.J. Nunnally the fourth from Akron. He's 6'3", 240-pound defensive end. He's guy very active last year, 56 tackles, 6 sacks, first team All MAC. I know it's a big step up from the MAC to the Big Ten, but this is kind of the pathway to many guys getting to the pros right now. Obviously, you have a very, very good team. It kind of sucks for the programs that develop players and got them maybe, I don't want to say cheaply, but got them because they didn't get a lot of offers out of high school. But Nunley's one of these guys that he could make big impact at Purdue. Another one that's he's a junior, so the first junior in this list is Ryan Turner, who is a cornerback. He had 44 tackles and 2 interceptions last year. He's another one of those anchors of that defensive backfield that I think could be really solid. When I look at that defensive backfield, you look at another guy, Richard Toney from Nevada. Toney played at Kansas State as well. Tony Grimes, who is another older player from UNLV, who is a corner, and he's a big physical corner. And I think that's about it on that group. But then you have a lot of guys that are going to sprinkle in. They're going to have to learn from the old guys, and there's even more transfers. If you look at the transfers that Purdue's gotten, and one of the reasons that I think some magazines have not been impressed by Purdue's transfers and Purdue's portal work is because they got a lot of guys who had potential coming out of high school, but haven't really hit their potential yet in college. Meaning you look at their stats, look at the amount of games they played. A lot of guys, injuries shortened seasons, so they played 2 to 4 games. Or they played, last year was a bad year because was it? I think Richard Toney, I think that's right. Yeah, I think Toney had a shortened season last year, but the year before he played a full season. He also played at Kansas State. There's some interesting paths to get to Purdue, and this is the new era of football. It makes it so difficult for some of you old guys like me who are saying, man, I don't even feel like I know anybody. It's going to be hard, but I think the only way you get to know them, number one, is go to the games on Saturday and really digging in. Number two is doing like what I did for a few hours today and just really looking at the team, looking at the roster, how it's constructed, where these guys came from. Before I get into the guys that I'm looking forward to seeing back, the leaders of the team, the players, the somewhat known commodities, I want to talk about the three position groups that I think are going to be strong. I just talked about defensive backs. The second one is running backs. Obviously, they're led by the team's leader, Devin Mockabee. But there's a lot of experience in that stable. Not a ton of size. They're not big backs, but it's a good, solid stable. And finally, the offensive line is surprisingly got some guys that with experience, has a couple guys returning that are going to be really good. But UNLV really bolsters the old UNLV roster from Odom, really bolsters this year's offensive line. I think you're definitely going to have two starters from UNLV, and then probably another two that will fill the two deeps for Purdue. The groups that scare me more than anybody, and they're right next to each other on the field on the offensive side, the tight ends, extremely scary for me. When I look at that unit, there's a couple guys that could have really good seasons, that could break out, that could reach the potential they've had for their career. But the tight ends are pretty terrifying when you look at productivity during their careers. If you'll just look at stats and you try to go find some of these transfers and some of the guys that are already on the roster, the young guys, it looks dicey. Does that mean that they're going to be bad? No, it just means somebody's got to take a huge step in their career to do something big for Purdue. And the tight end is always such a good safety valve for a team that is going to do a lot of control offense, which Purdue, I don't think they're going to have any ability to stretch the field. Somebody asked 2 weeks ago, who's the Billy Dicken to Brian Alford type connection on this team. And first off, who's Billy Dicken on this team, right? Obviously, Ryan Brown. I'm going to talk about him in a minute, but Ryan Brown is probably going to be starting at quarterback. Almost everybody thinks that he's the one at the depth chart, and that speaks in itself. The fact that some of those transfers that came in, some have already left, just like Brown did from North Carolina, because they didn't find the greener pastures that they thought they'd get from Coach Odom and company. And so Brown coming in and starting right away would say a lot about Purdue, but it also would say Purdue's not probably going to be a team that's throwing around in the yard a whole bunch. There's a great stat in that article from College Football News. It talked about how Purdue just didn't pass the ball very effectively last year. It was like most games were under 220 yards passing, and they had 290 yards plus, I think, 4 times the whole season. Maybe I'm a little off on that. The whole point was they had a lot of games where the offense just couldn't pass the ball. And they had a lot of games they couldn't run the ball either last year. And that's right. That's one of the biggest problems. You have a team last year that was so inept at so many things, and now you have to come back and try to rally guys and tell them and believe in them. Well, some of them, Coach Odom, he took a tough tactic in that he said, if I don't see it in the spring, some of you guys are going to ask you to leave. And he did it. And he's living with the fallout from that decision. Maybe it's good in the long run, but pretty tough in the short run, just because it made it so hard from a personnel standpoint just to fill a roster, let alone have a bunch of capable guys. Wide receiver group is another one that I am very, very afraid of. There are 2 wide receivers that I think look like they could be really, really good. I'm going to talk about them right now. Corey Smith from Tulsa. He's another transfer guy. I think he's a sophomore. Very, very good potential. I think he's from the state of Indiana, if I'm remembering correctly. One that I really love just because of his name is Nitro Tuggle, a Georgia transfer, also Indiana product. I think he's from South Bend, if I remember correctly. Yeah, South Bend. He's a former 4-star recruit out of high school. Had a little bit of productivity in Georgia, but not much. Not enough you'd say, oh, there's the guy. He's the next big thing. But that name's fun. And then finally, for me, Denylon Morissette, or I hope I'm pronouncing his first name, but I think he's a guy that was so solid last year in a sea of tumult for the offense. Morissette was one of the few guys that I was like, okay, he really did a lot of things. And I've talked about that one boneheaded play he had, but generally last season, really, really solid output. A couple guys that I think have potential breakout written on them. TJ Lindsey from Auburn, another transfer from Auburn. Breon Ishmael from Michigan is a guy that not a whole bunch of people are talking about. He's kind of a prototypical Michigan linebacker from 10, 15 years ago. He's a little bit undersized. And so there's some potential of guys that are athletes have been really high recruits. There's a lot of them actually that didn't have the liftoff from their initial year or two in college. And you look at their stats, there's just nothing there. And so that's the hard thing to figure out. A lot of it's guesswork, but those are the guys that I think that I've talked about already that might have the ability to do something big. Is there any guarantee? No, I just like these guys and the stats and the combination of playing time. The people that I've mentioned, they really got my attention. A couple others that I thought, if you want to look at, there's a guy named Braylon Charles. He's another junior defensive end from North Texas. Had 4.5 sacks last year in North Texas. Let's see, there's another one here. And Darius Coffey, he's from Memphis. He was at Northwestern for 15 minutes this spring, landed at Purdue. He's a safety, 5'10", former starter, started running back, his career at Memphis at running back. And then Ian Jeffries, 6'4", 260-pound redshirt freshman. And the reason I like him is he's one of these guys that looks like on paper he could be a really, really good athlete. He's a little bit bigger for a younger guy. Had 21 tackles at Arkansas State last year. He's a defensive end, 3.5 sacks as a freshman in pretty limited duty. So he's a guy that I would say, yeah, keep an eye on him. Why not? But most of the team, you got a lot of mysteries. Now, here are some guys that aren't a mystery. And I know I've talked about this. This is... Sometimes people say I don't dig in deep enough. I'm not detailed enough. I'm shooting from the hip too much. Not today. Notes upon notes upon notes upon notes. And so here we go. Here are the Purdue Boilermakers that are returning that I'm excited to see. Here's some of the leaders that when in a team that is starved for leadership, we don't really know who the captains will be, but we can be sure one guy will be. That's Devin Mockabee, the Boonville, Indiana product. He has been rock solid for his career, former walk-on, exciting player to watch. Big Ten opponents have come to know and probably dislike him because he's frustrating. He's tough to tackle. He doesn't run like anybody else in America. And he's going to play a big part. He's along with those other running backs that I think Purdue's going to be really solid in the running back position. A guy that I'm really excited to see play this year, I've been talking about him since last year, is Joey Tenona, the former Notre Dame I think he was a 4-star recruit out of high school, got in a car wreck, quit football, came back to football. His buddy Gus Hartwig from Zionsville encouraged him to come play at Purdue. Last year, he's trying to get his weight up, start getting his feet under him. I think he could have a really, really good season. Defensive end, C.J. Madden from Georgia, another transfer. He's a junior this year, and he showed flashes of potential. He didn't do a whole bunch. Remember, he was hampered by injury a little bit last year. And Denilan Morissette, his fellow Georgia fellow Georgia teammate, he's a junior this year too, I believe, which it seems like his career has actually been long because he's had a pretty decent impact at Purdue since leaving Georgia. And finally, Ryan Brown, the quarterback who a lot of people think he's a bit of a savior. I'm not going to go that far, just because the formula for what we think of at Purdue as the guys that are really, really effective, really can sling the ball. Brown is a dual threat guy. He's really, really good with his feet. He reads the field well. He is beloved by his teammates. He is a good morale guy. Things didn't work out at North Carolina, obviously. But I thought I'd talk about him just because he's a somewhat known commodity. We've seen him start 2 games. I think he was 0-2 in those 2 games, but 1 game played excellently. Had a really, really solid game. He's not the best passer, like I said, and he can develop that. But if we're looking at some comparisons, and I think right in the maybe the younger Billy Dicken before Tiller came there, if you remember that version of Billy Dicken. And Rob Henry is another guy. Rob Henry played with a lot of heart and won a couple games with grit. Ryan Brown will do that as well, I think, next year. And he'll do it by getting these guys together during the huddle. He's that type of guy. That's about all I got there. And I know there's some comments here. I appreciate you guys being here, but that's a lot. That's a lot of football talk. So maybe that'll scratch the itch for a little bit for some of you guys who were excited about it. I don't know. Let me know. Let me know what you think, because in the summer, I am really trying to figure out how to produce stuff that you guys want to hear and talk about. So thanks to you guys who are here. Ted Berkey's first. He says, good afternoon. Good to see you, Ted. Big Red Boiler says, afternoon delight. Indeed. Is there anything more of an afternoon delight than your pal Boiler down kind of a hazy pinkish red shirt, V-neck. Should I go with the deep V-neck? Who knows? We could do that. Motor City Boiler says, it's cold January afternoon. Yeah, indeed. That was a great slip up right away. Jumping in with the mess up. That's how I do. It's a very gray day in central Indiana. A lot of rain the last 24 hours. It is not cold, though. Did I say January again? I think I did. I did again. It's a gray June afternoon. It's a gray summer afternoon. Early summer. We still haven't gotten our feet under us when it comes to the summer weather, I'd argue, in Indiana. But we're starting to get there. Zachary Welch says, what a lovely Thursday end of work day. Surprise. Go Pacers. And as always, go Boilers. Yes, thank you for being here, Zachary. Adam P says, hola. Same to you. Whoa, we got the multilingual stuff coming at me early. Swag123 says, hello. I was wondering if we'd hear from you this week. I will try to come to you guys at least once a week for the rest of the summer until we get to camp. That's my goal. Maybe I'll do a couple. I've had some other goals where I think I've told you guys about maybe diving deeper into the roster on basketball. I put a request in with Jack Benner directly. I DM'd him. I believe his brother comes on here. And if you do come on here, if you are here today, reach out to your brother, ask him if he'd have a conversation with me. I think it'd be great. I want to get to know Jack a little bit more. And I think Jack's one of these guys, I think from what I understand of him, he's a pretty quiet guy. Not a lot of Purdue fans know a lot about him. And I thought it'd be fun to introduce us because I think he's going to play an important role this year. So I think it's Kyle. If you're Kyle Benter, if you're out there and you're listening, ask Jack. I believe you're his brother. I don't know. I'm not positive about anything. In this digital world. Big Time Boiler. Grant says, good afternoon and boiler up. Poolside from Cancun. Now, you are doing better than us today in central Indiana, Grant. You got away, and it is gray. It's been raining a lot. So congratulations on beating that. Send me pictures if you have a small bathing suit on. Greg McManus says, hello. Oh, hello. He continues, yeah, my old man used to sleep to golf on Sunday afternoon. I get it. Yeah, and I think the older we get, the more we do get that. I don't mind a nap. I quite like a nap, and especially during a golf outing. And if it's not a major, they do not hold my attention like maybe they should, or maybe they do for some of you guys. But same with IndyCar road courses, or street courses, pardon me. Road courses, I like them. Street courses are tough sell, but I still tune into them. Boiler Bugle says, golf on TV is the best napping weather. Agreed. Motor City Boiler says, Detroit is a horrible race to watch in person. Belle Isle wasn't bad, but it's horrible back in the city. Yeah, it is. It's not a very good product, and it's not very... Like, they don't even have many good vistas, like some cities, the street courses, they play up what's in the background. The way that street course is designed, there's nothing there but high walls with sponsorship. So you're not even getting anything very cool. Some weird things happened, by the way. There was the suspension, hardware broke. Oh, I can't remember. Was that on Siegel's car, if I remember correctly? Can't remember. But that was kind of a violent wreck, and he cleaned up somebody in that one. But not much to look at. It's not a very pleasing race. You're just going to get race dorks like me watching that, and like you, obviously. So thanks for tuning in, Motor City Boiler. Greg Manis, speaking of my inability to speak earlier, Dickin. Yes, when I said Dickin earlier, I was, of course, talking about Billy Dickin. So we get 3-4 Billy Dickin references in one show. That's pretty great. Boiler Bugle says everybody's favorite QB, and everybody's favorite apple cider as well. Motor City Boiler says Billy Dickin was his first Purdue quarterback. And so that goes back, I don't know, so Motor City... Are you talking about Ridge? So Billy Dickin has 2 chapters, maybe 3 chapters of his Purdue career as a quarterback. Remember, he had a shoulder problem, and if I'm remembering correctly, I think they moved him around position-wise. Coletto did. And then, of course, Tiller reinstalled him at quarterback, and he lit the world on fire his senior year. One of my favorite quarterback efforts in the history of Purdue football, in my opinion, just because it's up there with Robert Marv playing on ACL, because Dickin was really a guy that was like, nobody thought he had it still. And not only did he have it, he led the Big Ten in passing. So incredible senior year for Billy. Ted Berge says over 70 new players on football. Gracious. How can you begin to predict anything on this team? I completely agree. It is very difficult. The best I can do on my end, the only thing I can do is try to do like what I did today. I do not know how a guy like Pete Fiatek does it. I don't know what you do. But he found a way to agree with me. So last year, I thought the media was wrong and thought Purdue was going to be better than the worst team in the league. I was way off. I have eaten my crow. I will continue to eat crow. I was so far off on that. But I asked the question is, how can you do anything but guess? And especially when it's a new coach. What we know about Barry Odom is he's a systems guy, and he's a guy that's been able to get teams to flirt with a bowl. One thing that Fiatek talked about is if Purdue had an ACC schedule this year, they'd be flirting with a bowl. And I think he's right. And that kind of puts perspective on it. But with this monstrous Purdue schedule, this monstrous Big Ten as it sits right now, Purdue is not going to flirt with a bowl, in my opinion. I would be more surprised at that outcome if they flirted with a bowl. If they got near 5 wins, I would be absolutely shocked. I'd be stunned. I'm trying to think of another season that would stun me more. Maybe you've got an idea. Another Purdue basketball or football season that was a complete surprise. Let me know. Let me know in the comments or here live if you got it. Greg Minnis says it's all throwing darts at a dartboard for subscriber clicks. I agree, but I do think Pete was at least trying to be somewhat educated and thoughtful. Good for him. Honestly, it's a hard job, really hard job, and covering this stuff is difficult. Motor City Boiler says, I give them 50-50 chance they're going to be either good or bad. Very good analysis. That's why you come here to the comment section. Only 2 options. So they have a 50% chance to be good, a good reason to be optimistic. I mean, I think this is one of those seasons you go, if you just love Purdue and you like to hang out in Ross 8 on Saturdays, you go and you enjoy it for what it is. Enjoy it for time with your family, which that's a big deal with me and my brothers and my dad, and when my wife goes and my nephew, and great group. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking for it. So let's see. Ted Berkey says, my first QB at Purdue was Curtis Painter for Heisman, painting a masterpiece as the athletic department. Times have changed in the athletic department. I don't mean to offend any of the old creative team, the old squad, but man, the new creatives in the Purdue athletic department have just been incredible. If you go back and you remember that website, Anish still talks about it every now and again, the Painting a Masterpiece, Painter for Heisman website was leaving a lot to be desired. And I know we're in a different era where the digital photography wasn't as easy to make look beautiful. And I used Photoshop back then. Photoshop's tons better now. But really talented people right now, regardless of their background, they are incredible. Purdue's, and I just want to say hats off to them again. They have made all the sports fun to watch, and specifically football and basketball. Let's see. Greg McManus says this season will tell us a lot about the coaching talent for this Purdue coaching staff, probably more than the roster talent. Agreed. I think Purdue can have some good surprises and really good coaching. And I hope you come to a couple games, Greg. It was great seeing you last season. I think you come to a couple season, but that was good. Good having a little bit of a summit of sorts in the concourses with a couple of you guys. Robert Rennie says the tight ends should be tremendous blockers. Yes, and there is one guy specifically, I don't have his name in front of me. My son and I marvel at his size. 6'8", 280-pound tight end from UNLV, who is going to be in the jumbo package, undoubtedly. But I had a friend that played tight end at Purdue. His name's Tim Peterson. He was 6'7", 275. Just a mountain of a man. Indianapolis Cathedral product. Runner-up to Mr. Football his senior year. And this guy is bigger than him. And Tim was just a beast. So Motor City Boiler recalls the Painting a Masterpiece campaign as well. Jarvizda says there is some hope. At the end of last year, there was none. And that's a really good point. Something had to be done because it got bleak, didn't it, in a hurry. Greg Manda says, I don't see Brown as a savior, but a solid option with some game experience. Again, let's see how good coaching can help him develop. Yeah, I think that's the best attitude you can have. That's it. And Purdue's got a couple other guys with some experience, and hopefully there's a bit of a competition in camp. And some of those guys have gone off and trained with coaches and trainers. Speaking of, I'm not sure if you've followed these guys on Instagram, but Jakari Harris has been off training. All the guys have kind of gone separate directions, doing different things this summer on the basketball side of things. That's been fun to watch. Soon they'll come back together, I think, in the next couple of weeks, start practicing running together. And as they do, it's pretty fun place to be for these Boilermakers. Dick Vitale and many others have already called Purdue the number one team in America, of course, and there's going to be more and more of that laid at their feet. And this is where the leadership of the 3 seniors is going to really, 4 seniors, put Clough in there, but the 3 that have been around, their ability to handle being the hunted. Right. That's a different role for Purdue basketball. Generally, it's something we've had to get used to over the last 7 years or so. But again, this is a fun time of year. Motor City Boiler says 3 Billy Dickin references in 1 quick cast. I'm officially drunk. Yeah, I know it's probably that game you always play. Many people are playing the Billy Dickin drinking game. So I think it's up to like 6 by now, maybe 7. Ted Berkey says Brown just needs some help on that side of the ball. He does. And like I said, running game is going to be really, really good. The offensive line could be really, really good. And so then the next question is, how do you design the playbook so you can get guys the chance to make plays on the outside without having to rely on receivers that need to take the top off? I just don't think they have it right now. Yeah, there's just a lot of guys. I did a lot of research, and I was hopeful as I tore into it. There was a receiver from UCF. I said, okay, maybe he's the guy. No, they have the guy from USC. No, his incomplete data set. There's just not a lot out there, and any of these guys can break through. But like I said, Corey Smith, Nitro Tuggle, Denylon Morissette. Those are my 3 receivers that I think could make the biggest impact. Those are my guesses. Swag123 says, in the middle of winter, there's nothing better than sleeping on the couch and waking up to sunny golf. Absolutely. A winter January 5th day like today. Dumbass boiler dad. Greg McManus says, for me, this fall will be a good chance for road trips with my son or my wife, depending on who wants to go. Wins for first season of Odom will be a bonus. Yeah. Hopefully you can get there early. Get there in August, September, right? Or I guess they don't start till September, right? Get those first 2 under your belt and maybe get lucky on a couple more. Greg Minnis says 6'8", 280. That's a wall, not a man. Yeah, and he's a tight end, not an interior lineman. That is a big dude. My guess is he has very, very long arms, and he could probably easily be moved inside at the next level. But he hasn't been moved inside yet. But he didn't catch the ball hardly at all at UNLV. I think he had 2 receptions last season. So that's a big dude. Joe Vizda says last season was Kyle Orton drinking alone vibes. Yeah. Full bottle of Jack. Tough stuff. Like I said, I stay away from it. This is my own personal thing. I stay away from drinking when things are bad. And last football season, I stayed away from drinking my favorite drinks. So that's about it. I think we're at. I did not call this a quick cast. I knew this was going to be lengthy. As it turns out, it's about the same as a quick cast. I think my quick casts are 37 to 39 minutes when I take time to interact with you guys. And this one's 43 minutes right now. So great talking to everybody. Hope your afternoon is great as you get ready for the weekend. If you start early, it's Thursday in the afternoon. Hope you're having a good week. And I know there are a lot of people out there. I got a heart for this right now that are struggling because they are in between jobs. Keep pounding. And I can relate with you. I think some of you guys know some of my story, but I'm contracting as a designer right now, and that's good. I have no problem with that. But these layoffs in some industries have been tough, and my industry has been really, really hard. So if you're out there, I just wanted to send some encouragement your way. Keep going. You're not alone. A lot of people are struggling with it too, and you're gonna get through this. I mean, especially if you're like me, you know you're the best at what you do. That's a joke. It's a joke, but stay confident. A lot of stuff is not your fault that's happened, but some might be. I know it is in my case. Yeah, so rename them Dowdcast. I don't know if my brand is strong enough to do that, Greg. That's really kind of you. I don't think my brand is strong enough for that. So, but I do appreciate the suggestion. And Greg, I'll talk to you soon. God bless everybody. Hammer down. See you soon.